All right, welcome everybody to another episode of the Inside In Tennis Podcast. Mitch Michals here, all part of the Believe Network. Tons of great content on the network and tons of great tennis content on this show, which is available on all your podcast platforms. We are in the grass season, the sweet spot of the year. Tennis is an ongoing sport as you know, but this is really the peak of the tennis calendar. Roland Garros right into Wimbledon. And joining me on the show for our annual tennis chant, sports anchor who's covered a lot. He's worked for ESPN. He's been with Amazon Prime, MLB Network, NHL Network. He just continues to grind and is a tennis fan. So that's why he's here. Adnan Virk, welcome back to the show. It's always a blast.
Mitch, it's great to see you, man. It's always fun. Whenever I am asked in what has been, I say with all humility, rather illustrious career, what's the event or sport I want to cover, I always tell them it's tennis. That's the one glaring one on my resume. Now, people who know me and we're friends and other friends go, no, I know he's a big tennis guy. I know he plays tennis. I know how much he loves Federer, but like it's the one thing I haven't got able to do. Although I think about it, Kenny Albert, I was listening to my friend G.O.A.T's podcast, and he said that's the one sport he hasn't done. He actually is a pretty big tennis guy as well. So Kenny Albert's called on a national level, baseball, basketball, hockey, football, but tennis is elusive, man. The guys that get it, they don't give it up. The Dick Enbergs, the Chris Fowlers. I heard Brian Anderson, who I love, of course. I listened to him on Brewers games. He's great in the NBA. He got to do the French Open final with McEnroe. So thank you for having me. It allows me to talk about my passion for tennis.
You know, there's a lot of us out there, right? There's a lot of people like you out there that are established in other industries, but just love the game of tennis. And I was thinking about why that might be. I know it's a sport that is, you know, quote unquote a niche sport, but I do think it appeals to everybody. And it is something where you finally get to see it. Like I know you've had the chance to see it live. I think hockey's kind of like this, right? It's a conference sport. When you're in the arena, it's different. And that's when it kind of hooks its claws into you.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. The amount of people I hear go, I can't really follow the hockey in the ice. When I'm there, I'm like, oh my God, the crowd's amazing. And similarly for tennis, I'm trying to get my boys into it as well. And they've been into it because we've gone to the U.S. Open. And when you see the speed, Mitch, with it, they're hitting those ground strokes. And like you always think, you just hit over the net. How hard is that? But it's like, it's infinitesimal how hard you're hitting it. And just over the net to be able to graze it. It's amazing to watch the power, the ferocity, the speed, the agility. That's the biggest thing. So I understand the finesse, but I never understood the aggression and the physicality of tennis unless you're experiencing it live. There's nothing quite like it. And, of course, you watch it, and then you go try to play it. And as I tell people, I'm an intermediate level, a level 3. I get the ball over the net, much like my ping pong game, Mitch. I just get it over. I wait for the other guy to make mistakes. If you know what you're doing, you're going to kill me. If you can hit forehand winners, you'll kill me. But other than that, there's something about hitting a ball back and forth. And you, like you said, the those that love it like us love it. And I have friends who are just completely baffled. They go, you just like hitting a ball back and forth. I go, well, listen, every sport, when reduced to its common denominator, can sound a little silly. Basketball is just a man going up and down a court, throwing a ball in it. Baseball is just a man hitting a ball all night for 3 hours. But for tennis, it's got a great allure. And obviously, after that French Open men's final, again, a great resurgence right now for the sport.
That final, and I took some flack on the YouTube channel for saying it might be one of the best matches we've ever seen. People are going to have their favorites. I just think it's in the discussion because it had all the elements of an all-time great match. It was 5 hours long. There was drama. There was championship points saved. How about the fact, Adnan, that there was no bathroom breaks? They were out there the whole time. And there was the gentlemanly aspect of it. They were calling their own lines almost and conceding points in the stage that it was. So I think you had 5 sets of just intrigue across the board in that one.
So the one thing is everyone knows how good replay is in tennis. It's the best. Hawkeye, immediately you look, and in French Open, it's so hysterical. It's so archaic. You still have to check, and the line just, there's a spot right there because it is the clay, so you can tell where the ball hit, but it feels ridiculous that they haven't adapted to the technology that all the other majors have. So you're right. It's gentleman points. It's, relying on people's eyesight, which is crazy to think about in 2025. But to the match specifically, I as you know, I'm such a honk for Federer. I take such umbrage when people started messaging me saying it's the greatest match ever. I go, slow down. Federer and Nadal. And by the way, Federer, Roddick the next year was unbelievable. And Federer and Nadal, Aussie Open, was unbelievable when Roger beat him. So, there's a few along the way. But to your point, is it in the conversation? Absolutely. That's a top 10 match. Why not? It was the longest match ever at the French Open. It's the second longest ever at a major behind only Rafa and Djokovic was the Aussie Open. And as you said, you've got 2 budding stars. And I'm sure you discussed this as you did both on the air and with friends. Is it that Alcaraz showed the indomitable spirit of a true champion? Or did Sinner choke? And it's interesting. If you just watch the match, I think you say both guys won. If you just check the box score, you go, how do you squander 3 match points? Clearly he choked. But that's one indication where you had to watch the match because Sinner still, it wasn't like that was the match. Battle back on the next set, he still was able to show his power later on. So And that's one of those matches where, to your point, you have to watch it live. You have to watch the whole thing through. You can't just read a recap and go, oh, so Sinner had it in the bag, he choked it. No. They both played unbelievable. Alcaraz just dug a little deeper.
He did. On those 3 match points, championship points, there was one, it was a second serve point where Sinner got tight. I think the other one's Alcaraz, like you said, spirit of a champion. What separated for me, the most stunning part was Sinner battling back, right? Because everybody thought Alcaraz early break in the 5th. All right, ride this out. Sinner breaking back and then getting his 2nd, 3rd, 4th win, whatever that was, pushing it into a tie break and that's where Alcaraz showed it, right? That match tie break, like Djokovic, like Federer Nadal before him. Biggest moment, just locks it down and dominates. So, I mean, there's nothing you could poke holes in. That was just, for a fan, that was what you want for a viewing experience.
Yeah, because I'm turning 47 next month, and I find I'm now at the age where I start to really truly believe everything was better in the past. Movies were better in the 90s. Music was better in the 90s. Books were better in the 50s. I'm like, now there's nothing today, aside from technology and medicine. I don't think there's much better today. Like, I think I'm annoyed by the rise of social media. I'm disgusted by the narcissism of people. Politics has never been worse. So I'm like, when I look at all these things, sports is the one thing I return to. And I have been saying in tennis, we're never going to match this golden age. And that match single-handedly restores your faith in the power of the sport of tennis. Because you say, well, never going to top Roger and Rafa and Novak, and maybe not. But these two guys, Mitch, could go for the next 10 years. And the fact that Alcaraz already has as many majors as Nadal did at that age, and more than Roger and Djokovic, you think, oh, it's impregnable. No one's ever going to get 20 majors. You go, well, actually, a couple majors a year over the next 10 years, and a lot can happen. Of course, injuries, inactivity, other players coming up. But to just know that we've got at least those two guys theoretically going head-to-head for years, it's going to be awfully special.
Last 6 majors have gone to those two. So, there is a big 2. We'll say arrow when it gets a little longer, but for right now, the moment in time, and that's the beauty of this, right? The moment in time as these two are dominating. Is it going to last for another year, another 5, 10 years? Who knows? But yeah, they're the guys right now. And what we saw from the Federer, Nadal, Djokovic era is that maybe some players will step up, get in there and win majors, but it's put up or shut up, right? Because these guys are clearly pacing the field. And when you have people to chase at that level, it's going to be very hard to maintain it. How many matches have we seen? We saw Tommy Paul play a great set against Sinner. You have to basically redline an entire match to even have a chance with these guys.
Right, and that's the thing. People are like, can Djokovic still win a major? I'm like, yeah, I think he could win a U.S. Open. I think he could win a Wimbledon, but he's not the betting favorite. Like, it's still well behind those other two guys. Like, something would have to happen, like a major upset, and all of a sudden he lucks in and out facing Zverev, and you go, okay, yeah, Djokovic can beat him. That could potentially clear a path, but I think it's going to be a challenge. And I got to tell you the story. Vice Sports is doing this documentary series. It's matching all the different players and just doing like this kind of head-to-head matchup. So one of these guys reaches out to me and goes, hey, wait to come to the studio in New York. Mad Dog Russo's hosting it, and it's like Bo versus Dion. It's Ali versus Tyson, all these kind of matchups. So I go through them all, and as we get up, I did like 3 or 4, Ohtani versus Babe Ruth. And I go, hey, I'm really sorry. I go, I don't know anything about soccer. I couldn't help you out on Messi, Ronaldo, and I don't even know less about golf. I couldn't tell you about Tiger Nicklaus. And I go, that's okay. We actually changed one of the topics to tennis. I go, excuse me? He goes, we changed it to I go, Roger versus Rafa and Novak? I go, yeah. I go, give me that lab mic. Put that mic. I'm about to give you 10 minutes of gold on Federer right now.
Yeah.
So I was telling Mad Dog about that, and I'm curious your take on this, because I was very passionate about this, and unfortunately I couldn't bat around anybody else. But I said, if you just want to go by majors, then yeah, Djokovic is the greatest. But as you and I both know, the Aussie Open wasn't considered a major until like 1980. The French Open I would decry as, I wouldn't call it a bastardized major, but it's unlike any other major, right? And I would argue most people grow up dreaming of Wimbledon, the U.S. Open. Those are the prestigious events. So I'm not going to have an Adnan Virk personal record book and just discount the French Open. I'm not going to remove 14 majors from Rafa. I will simply point out it is not held in the same esteem as the other majors. And further to the point, I said, if your classification is the greatest of all time, that word is rather nebulous. Again, if you're just saying most majors, then yeah, it's Djokovic, that's Nadal, that's it. But if you ask anybody who knows tennis from the 60s and 70s, they'd say Rod Laver's the greatest tennis player I ever saw. Who cares? He has like 8 majors. Or no one's ever putting Emerson in the conversation of the greatest player ever, even though he has 11 majors. And again, it goes by era, Sampras, Agassi, etc. But my favorite point is this, which I want you to opine on.
Right.
I say when it comes to Federer, the reason why I say he's the greatest is that the sport is so much more than numbers. It's about that feeling. And Roger Federer inspired more people to pick up a tennis racket than I would argue any other player ever. He's the most beloved player for that reason. He inspires hope. He inspires a rekindling of the sport, and he literally represented the sport better than anybody else. So to me, greatest is not just who has the most majors, it's who was at the apex of the sport, which he was. Right. We can have all the numbers, the records, the most Wimbledons, et cetera, but also a guy who really represents the sport to the best of his abilities. That's why for me it's always Roger.
And I understand that, and I get, as a Federer fan myself growing up, I understand exactly where you're coming from. And I do think it's fair to point out that, the focus on the majors really started with the Sampras era.
Correct.
He was the first player to be like, okay, this is prioritizing, and why wouldn't you? Because that's how we're remembered now. And I understand it as a sportsman, as a leader, if you want to put it that way. He led the sport probably maybe better than anyone's ever led any sport.
Yeah.
I do think that it's harder as time has passed to rectify the Federer-Djokovic comparison. I think with Nadal, you can still argue a lot of those key points.
Nice.
The weeks at number one is what I think ultimately overtook, and that's where it was. Like Djokovic was on top. And that's, you hear tennis players say that a lot, to go away from other things for majors. Like getting to number one means as much to them in a lot of ways, and staying there. So I guess getting it back to Sinner and Alcaraz, I wonder what that's going to look like with Sinner in number one, but Alcaraz having the edge in slams. But no, I hear you. I mean, what Roger did and how he played, I think that's what that's what resonated with so many people, was the grace and elegance that he played in this quote unquote gentleman sport.
100%. And those are words that you think of only other athlete. I think is Wayne Gretzky. Gretzky's the greatest hockey player of all time. And again, a sport which is thought to be so bruising and physical, Gretzky played with grace, elegance, intelligence, like just absolute class on grass. Like that was always watching Roger. And it's funny, that great book we were talking about, Chris Clary, which you have over your shoulder, The Master, he said, does Federer think about who's the greatest of all time? Like would he get into an argument if someone said to him, Novak's better than you, Rafa's better than you? He goes, no, I think Roger knows when he goes to bed and that at one time he was the greatest player in the world. And that's enough. Like for most great athletes, if you know, hey, for whatever duration of time, I was the best to ever do it. And that's fine. Eventually you realize that, yes, records will be broken. Others will come along. But if you know for whatever amount of time I was the best, that's enough for most great players.
And there's also the side of still improvement, still chasing just being a better tennis player. I heard Jim Courier say this when he got to number one. He was in his early 20s. It was a weird feeling that he woke up. He's like, well, my volleys aren't number one in the world. Like I have other things to work on. So like imagine someone telling you you're the best in your field, but you still have that look. I can improve, because if I don't, then someone's going to pass me.
By the way, mentioning volleys, it was a great point that McEnroe and Anderson mentioned with Sinner and Alcaraz. Like, of course, I love the serve and volley, being a Wimbledon guy, growing up on tennis in the 80s, specifically Becker and Edberg. And at one point, McEnroe laughed because that's why nobody volleys anymore. That's why nobody's serving volleys, because these guys hit the ball with such ferocity, those ground strokes. By the time, even if you have a rocket of a serve, by the time you get to the net, that ball is whistling past you. I miss the serve and volleys, but I get why they don't do it anymore.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you saw, too, the internet debate of, the Mount Rushmore men's tennis, right? Because everyone has the big three. And the way it's looking, one of these guys will get on there sooner rather than later. But as of right now, that fourth spot is a debate. For me, it's really two people. Like, I know when we can get into majors, I think there's the school of thought of Pete Sampras.
Yep.
Or do you go Bjorn Borg? Because Borg was the guy that was the first rock star in tennis.
Yeah.
Left so early with 11 majors. He's the one guy that I don't think you can look at the major total and hear the whole story. So I don't know if you have a preference, or you would reconfigure Mount Rushmore.
No, I love that pick. Bjorn Borg's a great one. That would be my fourth, because you're right. He, to me, is like a Jimi Hendrix, a Kurt Cobain. Like, he was unbelievable for his time. And who knows how much better he could have been if he'd kept on going. Like, he was like a supernova. It was like Sandy Koufax. Like that 6-year stretch, it was like the guy was unbelievable. And again, kind of like Federer, the greatness of the sport, the way that he played, the influence of him. How many players today say, I picked up a racket because of Bjorn Borg? Like, those things to me matter. I would go with Borg.
Yeah.
And that Borg-McEnroe match, arguably the greatest ever.
How many female tennis fans became fans in the 70s because of Bjorn Borg? No, and Roland Garros to Wimbledon, there was one last week. Like, we think of how short grass court season is.
Yeah.
He literally was playing no tournaments. He was winning Roland Garros, having a couple hits, and then winning Wimbledon. Just insane. And look, to get it all the way back to like the big three and Djokovic, right? Djokovic is still playing. Borg could not handle not being the best anymore, and that's all right. Like, he'd done enough. That's the question with all these guys. Do you still want to be around? I mean, Andy Roddick was another example. Fell outside the top 10. He's like, that's enough for me. That's the fascinating thing about these greats, is that they can still play, but do they want to be around if they're not the best anymore?
Yeah, I remember towards the tail end of Rogers' career, and especially we just saw it with Rafa, like people being like, oh, it's enough. He's not going to win again. I'm like, but you don't understand. Like for them, the appeal is being on the court. Like once Rogers' knee issues happened, it was a debilitating injury. Okay, I can't be at my physical best. There's no point. But they're not going out there going, oh, I have to win the major. Like, no, I just love playing tennis. If you have such a passion to do it, you should do it as long as you want. And similarly, in Borg's point, if the desire's gone, if the flicker's gone, you don't owe anybody anything. If you don't want to do it anymore, you should walk away when you can. And for Novak, at least now, clearly still has the passion, wants to play. Eventually, he's going to walk away at some point as well. But it was really cool, by the way, seeing the friendship with those guys together. And poor Andy Murray, he's, the Ringo Starr here of this Big Four era, because it's like, well, Andy's not quite with them. But he was certainly a great player, certainly won his majors. But seeing them together the way they honored Rafa, really nice moment there at Roland Garros.
We get more with Adnan Virk here on the Inside In Tennis podcast. We're talking about all things tennis going into Wimbledon. 2025 season's been spectacular. And one of the things that we talked about and you alluded to is that Roland Garros tribute for Rafa, which was as deserving as anything. The footprint on the court was a nice touch, as was, I'm sure, you had the Big Four, Big Three fake out, right? Like it was a video tribute into those guys being there. It's look, they're all together in one room is going to be rarer and rarer as this, as life goes on. So it was good to see, even if it was for just a moment.
Yeah, and it's been so genuine, particularly the friendship with Federer and Nadal. And it's, again, what makes these guys so unique. In what other sport could your biggest rival be not your closest friend, but like a genuine friend? Like when Rafa at a charity tournament, he can pick up the phone and call Roger Federer, and Roger will do it. Similarly, Roger knows that final match he played, it was a weird way to go out, right? An exhibition match. Again, speaking of Rod Laver, wanted to give love to Laver Cup, and him and Nadal playing doubles together, kind of goofy, kind of quirky, but really cool. It was like, oh man, like he wanted to just share the court with Rafa and have that moment together. So yeah, I mean, it's impossible to think about Rafa without thinking about Roger and Djokovic and Murray. But you can certainly make the point for Nadal, if not as beloved as Roger, certainly had wildly popular. I mean, when Nadal was rolling, people loved the guy. Again, his endurance, his stamina, the fact that Rafa wouldn't give up on points, the bulging biceps, right? That wicked forehand. Like it's when you think of Rafa at his best, I mean, it was remarkable to watch. And I think you could make the argument in any sport, there's never been a guy as good at one thing as Rafa is at winning the French Open. Like it was absolute domination when you look at those numbers overall. Video game like.
Is that the most unbreakable record? I mean, I think it might be. Like I know you're a sports historian as well. Like there's a ton of unbreakable records, but I put that near or at the top of the list.
Yeah, you look at ones. First of all, Ovechkin just beat Gretzky's record, which for years no one ever thought Gretzky would touch his goals record. So records are made to be broken. Yeah. DiMaggio's 56-game hit streak never will get beaten, especially in today's game. These guys just hit home runs and strike out. Don't really care about getting on base. But yeah, I think as far as like Rafa's numbers at Roland Garros, 14 French Opens, and just the overall match record, unbeatable.
It's like Alcaraz would have to. So he's got 2 right now, and he is 22. Yeah. So we're talking winning Roland Garros titles into his late 30s, and that's not really an interruption. And that's what's crazy is that he held firm, and really there were waves to it, right? Like you had the first run, he loses to Soderling, he comes back, has the second wave, and then we thought that was it, and he has arguably the third run too. So, it's crazy to see. And yeah, Djokovic being the last one left of that era. It's always, I wonder with athletes too, right? The lack of motivation, maybe not having your peers. You even saw Alcaraz say, like, I kind of need Sinner out here to bring the best out in me. It's a real thing.
Well, that's what I always say. That's what tennis truly is. It's an individual sport, but the other guy does indeed bring out the best in you. You're only as good as your opponent. If they lay down and don't play well, no one says it was a great match. It's like, no, they've got to be at that same level, and you in turn will rise to that. And Djokovic has always credited Roger and Rafa for making him a better player, right? That's when he went gluten-free and unbelievable fitness. He was like, yeah, watching those guys, I knew to get to that level, I had to be better. And that's one disadvantage for Roger is that, when you're the pace car, everyone sees so you can start to pace yourself and go, okay, that's the number. If I average this many majors per year, like you said, after Pete, everyone started focusing on majors. Djokovic and Rafa had that advantage of kind of be able to kind of tailor their schedule. Just focus on the majors. It's all that matters. But again, it's one thing to have a plan. It's another thing to execute it. Djokovic has executed it, which is amazing.
He certainly has. Yeah, it's something. It's something special to see where these guys go and what their careers lead up to. And that's the sad thing for guys like Andy Murray is that he's clearly been a better player as a result. And not just Murray, players that haven't won majors became better as a result of competing with the big three, but probably would have more majors in other eras. So on that same topic though, and then is there anybody out there currently, because I said 6 straight majors for these 2 guys. Yeah. Who would be next? I know Djokovic is always a threat, but is there anybody next up you see or potential players? Like who do you think could be the next guy to win a major.
Was Zverev is fascinating to me because I've always looked at this guy and go, man, he's so talented. Like he clearly can do a lot of things out there, but then he's got these mental lapses. Somebody was telling me, he goes, think of like an uber talented player who would have mental lapses. And I said, well, I think of Murat Safin. He certainly would be mercurial. I think of Goran Ivanisevic certainly would get emotional out there. Did get that one Wimbledon, which was great. But I said, Zverev's a guy that like at some point should be better than he is. And yet I start to see that divide become even further with Sinner and Alcaraz and with him. And like I said, Djokovic's kind of an outlier. Okay, he's 34, whatever he is, still great. But like, who's this next generation? The thing is, these guys are so young. Like you said, Mitch, 22 for Alcaraz. Like Roger and Novak didn't get rolling at that age. It took him a few years to get going, and then Roger started just cleaning up. Whereas like in this case, for him to be 22, like who's the 18-year-old going to challenge us? Nobody. But I'm curious. I want to see Zverev do a little bit better, make this a big three rather than a big two. You?
Yeah, I would. I wonder if he's hit that wall. If there's a scar tissue thing too. He's been in a few major finals. He gets beat by Sinner pretty handily in Australia this year. Right. I don't know. There's a lot of issues there. Can you believe that only 2 guys in the 90s won Grand Slam titles? That's it. Born in the 90s.
I was going to say that's an insane number. Like that's God.
I know. And like I wonder if they're sandwiched in between the big three era, and then here come these 2 guys. But I wonder with consistency, because that's the hallmark of what those guys we don't talk about. Just availability. Your best ability is your availability. Oh yeah. And there weren't many injuries or issues with those 3 guys. So I do wonder if that might be a factor going forward. I'm curious. The 2 names that stand out to me are Jack Draper, the British guy who's coming in with a lot of hype going. He's played very well. And then of all the Americans, obviously biased, maybe it's a guy like Ben Shelton, who's got to the top 10 in under 3 years of being a pro. He might have the potential, I'd say maybe even like the sneak one, because it's going to be tough to get on top of this sport.
Well, that's why it'd be so great, dude, to have like an American tennis player going back to being an Andy Roddick, a Sampras. Like that's why Shelton would be unbelievable for the sport. Like that women's final, just seeing Coco win. Yeah. You saw more attention being paid to it. Naturally, Americans want to root for Americans. We got an American tennis who's winning. Sabalenka, by the way, couldn't have handled herself more poorly. I've always liked Aryna.
She did
just
apologize.
Had a bad day, right?
So it came out, and
because people are killing her who don't know anything about her. Listen, I've always liked her. She's a hell of a player. She's always been classy. I guess she had a bad day and started saying, well, Iga would have beat her, and she didn't beat me. I beat myself. So, dude, I get it. These guys get emotional. I hopefully she doesn't make those comments in the future. But, yeah, Shelton is a good pick. And, by the way, I want to piggyback your point about injuries. Again, being Canadian, I remember when Jeannie Bouchard's in the Wimbledon final, you go, oh, my God, here we go. And then it doesn't happen, dude. You get injured. You get banged up a little inconsistency. That's it. Milos Raonic, McEnroe's coaching him. He's got the best serve in the game. Disappears. Felix Auger-Aliassime, like there's Shapovalov, like there's a lot of guys. You start to see a little bit of increase, but a couple injuries, a little bit of inconsistency, go by the wayside. So it's such a tough sport.
The shout out to fellow Canadian Gabriel Diallo winning a title last week, 6'8" kid from Kentucky, and then that teenager Mboku, she actually looks like she could be a potential. She's 18 years old from Canada, so there's some things brewing up north.
That's good news. It's good news. As you know, the tennis in Canada is always Rogers Cup in August is always a blast, whether in Montreal or Toronto. It's awesome. I saw Alcaraz play there a couple of years ago. And it was amazing watching him.
Yeah, I do think the crossover appeal is real, especially for American tennis fans. Coco's proven to be a star, and that's and I'll never compare. It's hard to heap the comparisons with like the all-time prodigies, the Gretzky coming up in hockey, LeBron James coming, where there's so much media hype. But there was a lot put on Coco early from the time she beat Venus Williams in Wimbledon, and she's much maligned, she's scrutinized. Everyone wants to pick apart her game. 2 slams at 21, 22 is something not to scoff at. So she's right on schedule and a transcendent star at this point.
Yeah, the aforementioned Mad Dog Russo loves tennis like no others. He was like, there's nothing spectacular about Gauff's game. He's like, but she's just really solid. And I was like, no, I think there's moments of spectacular. I don't think she's like this middling, plodding, solid player. Like I think her athleticism, her ground strokes, like when she's rolling, she's rolling. So I'm with you. I don't think she's going to win because Swiatek has a bad day or Sabalenka doesn't hit her. Like I think Coco's here to stay. She could be great.
She is an exceptional athlete. Like athleticism, how she moves out there, it's one of one. By the way, you mentioned Mad Dog. I have to say, it was years ago, I think. That take about zigging on Steffi Graf being the greatest ever over Serena was it was awesome. I'm not even saying I strongly, agree or disagree with it, but that's a tennis historian's take. And he had numbers to back it up. So I just love that. Just making everyone's blood boil with that take.
Oh, his passion and zeal is unmatched. And you're right. You're not going to offend more people. It's like Serena, even the moments that she'd like to take back, the ball judge, et cetera, US Open, like beloved player. Like Serena was unbelievable, her ferocity. And to be like, nah, the German player, Steffi Graf, she's better. It was such a great take, my doggy. 24 majors. Yeah.
Yeah. And retiring at 30 with those stats too. Yes. I kind of do think if we everyone wants to go in the time machine, it's really a hard argument because of technology and how things are, but a lot of it's surface too. This is the only sport where you're going on surface to surface in a lot of these hypothetical matchups. It's not like basketball where you just roll the ball out, or hockey where you're on the same sheet of ice.
Well, I have a friend of mine who also says the greatest tennis player of all time for women's size, Martina Navratilova. Because he goes, if you look at singles and doubles and again longevity, he goes, dude, Martina's career is unbelievable. I said, yeah, it's tough to argue these things, but it's a good argument to have.
On grass, I don't know if I'm taking anyone over her. That's true.
Yeah.
Other things to kind of discuss here on the show, on the podcast, and then we look at like the U.S. Open, and I want to get your take too. This mixed doubles format has been sweeping the nation, and I wonder, like, it's an exhibition, it's an invitational, and there's much to be discussed about what that means for the sport of mixed doubles and the quote-unquote double specialist. But if your job is to get intrigue and excitement, you can't do much better than this. You have the very biggest names in the sport playing in a doubles tournament. So I think they hit a home run in that regard. But if you're a doubles purist, this just might not be for you.
Yeah, but I laugh as you say doubles purists because how many of them are there out there?
Sure.
Like, I mean, at the end of the day, anybody who's even a casual tennis fan will know the major players. They know singles. Like it's very difficult to be the Bryan brothers and cut through and be known as somebody who has to watch. And even then, there's a percentage of tennis players or tennis fans who wouldn't want to watch. Like, no, I just want to watch singles. So you're right. When it comes to doubles tennis, it's just a tougher draw. Again, for guys like you and me, we'll watch, especially if it's top-ranked players. And there's certainly an art form to it and a passion, but you got to mix it up. You got to try new things. That can be the challenge sometimes with tennis, right? They're too reluctant to try new things. So, okay, you know what? Let's go outside the establishment, especially the U.S. Open. Those great rowdy crowds late at night. Get a little mixed doubles up there, some big names. Why not? I love it.
The tradition thing is so funny, and it's true, right? Everyone's reluctant to change. Oh, we've always done. You hear like, oh, we've always done it this way.
Yeah.
That was the NFL with the extra point rule. And then it took like a half of a game to realize, that was stupid. We're much better off not just giving you a free point.
Oh, 100%. I'm like, anybody who's stuck in the mud, like, this is the way we've always done it. I'm like, that's what the losers say, okay? Adapt with the times, make things more exciting. As long as you're not tangibly changing the sport, I don't know why you'd have an issue with it.
No, and it highlights something else, right? Like these majors, the qualifying week has really blown up. There's the Fan Fest week, the U.S. Open. So why not give them something else?
It used to be the best deal in sports. You get the grounds pass U.S. Open and just go watch a bunch of matches. And it was like maybe $75. And even in the last few years I've been going, that's been creeping. Now it's like 150, 180. The word's out and everyone knows that's the week, that qualifying week and the first week of the Open that you can just go watch matches all over the place. It's great.
Yeah, maybe you have that, and you have another mixed doubles draw, and you do like Karate Kid 3, just meet in the final. So,
exactly.
I don't know.
There's a new Karate Kid movie out, so you know what? We'll get Ralph Macchio in. He'll be the unofficial line judge. It'll be great.
As a film buff yourself, and how does that stand the test of time? Like I'm wondering, like how has that franchise lasted this many decades and this many? Like, what's the secret to the longevity in some of these cases?
Well, it's amazing. Somebody said to me, like, "Why do movies suck today?" And I started laughing. And I go, "Well, the main thing is that there's a lack of creative output, and because of the fact movie theaters have not recovered from pre-COVID levels, the studios really want to trust two things, which is Marvel movies, which we've all had way too much of, and then all of a sudden they go out and make a ton of money, and also retreads. So you go, okay, what's the film that we're Karate Kid? There's enough people who will still know that movie, ages 40 and up, so the nostalgia works, and then hopefully there's enough of a young audience fan base that'll go into it. That's really the secret. Now, it speaks to a glaring lack of creativity in Hollywood. You'll still get some great movies. I love Denora. I love The Brutalist. But now those movies only come out in November, December. The rest of the year, it's just all recycling these other movies. So rinse and repeat. That's kind of the rule of Hollywood these days.
The retread, I completely jumped off, like, tucked, dropped, and rolled the Point Break retread. I'm like, this is an abomination. I'm never doing this again. Yeah, but yeah, and we talked about movies last time, right? So tennis had challengers. We've always been waiting for like a tennis-ish movie. I'm not going to completely co-sign that movie. There were some things I liked. The biggest thing to come out of it for me and was how they shot the movie. That was the first time I thought, okay, there's something here with how we can capture tennis scenes, because it is a tricky sport, as you know, to film.
Yeah, there's the new F1 movies coming out June 27th, and apparently Lewis Hamilton was really involved in it. He said, this is the first driving movie ever that'll make it feel like what it's like to be in a car. So I'm like, all right, that's about the all you can get. Joseph Kosinski directed, he did Top Gun Maverick, obviously stars Brad Pitt, Javier Bardem, others. But in terms of challengers, I'm with you. I didn't necessarily care for the whole love triangle. I rolled my eyes at the ending. But I love the tennis scenes. If you put it on right now, I'm like, this is pretty good. Like, at least you're able to get that bird's eye view of what it's like. And again, what were they focusing on? The power of the sport, the aggression of the sport, the stamina, the endurance. Like, I think those qualities were able to come across, and to be able to like zing that ball and watch the camera fly with that ball like that. I agree with you. There have not been very many good tennis movies. That alone for the tennis scenes, I thought was a pretty good job by Luca Guadagnino, the director.
Yeah, they did a good job. I think it was Brad Gilbert who was training the players to be passable level and really actually have some solid form, because that's the other thing. It's the quarterback that can't throw the football, and we're just like, okay, we know this is not good. So
right, that's what people say. Why do you like Major League? Because like Charlie Sheen can actually throw a baseball 85 miles an hour. Like normally you can tell these guys are a bunch of bums out there, but if you have an athlete who's actually a good actor, that's the way to go. And you're right, those guys look like decent tennis players.
Yeah, and if you like a 50-year-old pitcher putting Vaseline on the baseball, that's even better. No, it's good to have the crossover appeal. We've talked about it before, right? That tennis being in the mainframe. I remember at Indian Wells when I was there, Chalamet was there with Kylie Jenner, and an actual, like we saw it in the NBA Finals, but an actual sports fan. Like he's actually paying attention. That's kind of what you need sometimes.
Chalamet's the it boy right now, man. It was hilarious with the Knicks because people are like, is he really a Knicks kid? I'm like, I clearly. I mean, he
might coach the team. He might be the coach. Yeah.
Dude, him and Ben Stiller right now, those are the best options.
Yeah.
They fired Thibodeau, did not have a plan B. So, yeah, I love the fact when you've got these guys who are big tennis fans who are actually celebrities. You always see Alec Baldwin will pop up at the U.S. Open. It was funny, by the way. I thought TNT did a really good job with their coverage.
They did.
Obviously, missed being Tennis Channel being there, but turned in a good job. And the one funny image that I'll never be able to get out of my mind, Ernie Johnson is as good a broadcaster as it gets. Seeing him wearing the chapeau, I go, this just doesn't fit. We got to get Ernie back to the NBA.
No, I don't think they ran that promo again after Charles Barkley's like, it's so stupid, it's not called the French Open anymore. So you give Charles Barkley a promo, like you got to just expect the results you get. Like it's nobody else's fault.
They kept saying Roland Garros. He's like, I thought it was the French Open. Charles was all over it.
It's so funny. Well, I do want to wrap up the podcast here discussing another favorite point of mine, and that's hockey in the place of athletics. And we mentioned that, covering the Stanley Cup final, which the Florida Panthers won again, but I think it's so fascinating that a lot of hockey players and other athletes, they say not only do they love tennis, but that's what they play in the off season.
Yes.
So I look at tennis almost as a supplement to some of these pro athletes, because it's no coincidence, right? You get a lot of the same skills playing tennis that you do with other sports.
No question. I'll give you a couple of baseball guys. Mike Lowell, who won a World Series with the Marlins. He and I worked at the MLB Network. Avid tennis player. Again, the hand-eye coordination. Bo Bichette of the Toronto Blue Jays.
I've seen him. He looks good on the court.
I was going to say, Bo can actually play. Like there was a chance he could have gone pro. His dad, of course, Dante Bichette with the great Rockies. But like Bo can actually play, still plays recreationally. And in hockey, I mean, the number of these guys, Matthew Tkachuk plays tennis. Austin Matthews plays tennis. A lot of these guys. Mitch Marner. Because again, that hand-eye coordination. Like it's like a second skill to these guys. Even guys who haven't played tennis, I feel like, Mitch, because of their facility with the stick, you just hand them a racket.
Yeah.
They'll figure it out pretty quickly.
Have you ever talked to Roman Josi of the Nashville Predators?
I haven't. I was in Nashville earlier in the year. I've not talked to Josi. Big tennis guy?
Yeah, well, he's Swiss. So
there you go.
Bring up. I mean, it was actually funny because when he won the Norris Trophy for best defenseman in the league, for those following, when he won it during the COVID year, Roger recorded a message. So.
Dude,
check
that's
that
sick.
out. And he actually plays too. So he was at Wimbledon watching Roger and Stan. So that's another one that.
Before we close, I got to ask you, because we all know Newport, International Tennis Hall of Fame, you can have a chance of Roger and Serena being inducted together. They've got to do something about this. That city can't handle that many people.
They might.
They're going to separate it, right? That's the
Laver Cup. There's the technicality there. I don't know. I know people at the Hall of Fame, but I don't know what they're going to do.
Yeah.
But they should just do what they did for Wayne and Mario. Just let them go right in. But waive it. Just waive it. But no, I think.
Wait the 5 years? Yeah.
I think they could figure it out and be like, was the Laver Cup an actual tour event, or what? How to kind of do it that way.
Right.
That said, though, I don't know if they can handle it. But shout out to the Hall of Fame, because I know they lost the Newport event for. The 250s are kind of consolidating, but we're going to have women's tennis there for the first time. Yeah. They're doing the Hall of Fame weekend, like the lead up before the U.S. Open. Yeah. Brian's and Sharapova this year, so I think that's going to be pretty good.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome, man. I mean, anybody who has ever been, if you ever get a chance to go to Newport, Rhode Island, again, all the years I worked at ESPN, it was only about an hour 40 from Connecticut. I remember going, I was like, Newport's a great little town. They got the nice beaches, mansions tour, and that Tennis Hall of Fame. First time ever I get to play on grass. That was the first thing. I go, wait, you have a grass court? Like, yeah, go ahead, put some shoes on. I'm like, oh my God, this is awesome. So it's a really cool Hall of Fame, and I'll be back there at some point to go see Roger get inducted.
Yeah, Darren Cahill said on an interview that Jannik Sinner is practicing sliding on grass. So that's where we've gotten to this point too.
Sliding on clay, no, sliding on grass, whatever
but
works.
There really, there's nothing like, and that's where we can close on. There's nothing like tennis because you have to adjust to so many factors: surface, conditions, your player movement, and there's debates on who the best athletes are in the world, and every sport has tremendous athleticism and footwork. But I would just like to say tennis is at the very top near the list. You can compare and contrast, but it takes a real special athlete to succeed at this level.
100%, because you're looking at so many different skill sets involved, right? It's not just the hand-eye coordination; it's that level of athleticism, that endurance, the stamina. Like it's everything, and the fact that unlike other sports, you can't kill the clock. That was the biggest thing while watching that Sinner-Alcaraz match. There's no point you can go, oh, time's up. We're going to go forever. And it's always one of my challenges with Federer and Nadal, the greatest match ever played. As you know, it was twilight. They couldn't see anything. Like I still think they should have called. Like it's easy to say now because Rafa won and Roger lost, but I'm like, they could barely see the ball, for God's sakes. And that's kind of the way it goes sometimes. As you said, there's elements impacting you that will impact you like no other sport. That's tennis.
It certainly is. Adnan Virk, this is always a blast. Our chats are so much fun. What else do you have going on? We know NHL season ended. Baseball's still in effect. I know you're constantly got your finger to the pulse in the film network, film industry, but what else is going on for you? So
MLB Network, I continue, as you know, with MLB Tonight. NHL Network, my podcast, NHL Unscripted, Virk and Demers. We'll do our last episode today and wrap up what was an excellent season. But speaking of movies, big news, Mitch, my debut book, Cinephile, Perseverance, Ambition, and Art, coming out August 26th. So I did 336 episodes over 8 years of my podcast, Cinephile. So finally, the book companion to the podcast. And I took all my best interviews, Robert De Niro, Margot Robbie, Josh Duhamel, J.K. Simmons, all the big names I got to speak to, put it all in one book, told stories about Kevin Hart being at the Oscars when Moonlight won Best Picture, why movies aren't as good as they used to be, did a whole chapter on Paul Giamatti and Pacino, all my favorites. So August 26th, make sure people check out the book.
I can't wait. I'm going to definitely pick that up. And it made me think of one last thing out the door as I'm looking at Al Pacino in The Godfather with Marlon Brando over your right shoulder. Yeah. Do people debate best actor ever like they do tennis player?
Oh my God, yeah, absolutely. What's funny, as you were doing the males, I was just thinking in my head, like, if we did females, you're like, okay, so Serena, Graf, Navratilova, then the debate becomes who's the fourth female, but we'll do that another time. With actors, you feel like the ones that they agree with right away is Brando, because he literally changed acting with method acting. And I think De Niro's impregnable, but the other two spots, like, you get some debates, man. Pacino, Nicholson, DiCaprio, Denzel. Like, it gets pretty fun.
Paul Newman,
absolutely. Yeah. Paul Newman, Cool Hand Luke. He's unbelievable.
Yeah, and also like tennis players, right? Eras, technology, how film is so different. Yeah, it's the best. Always a blast, though, Adnan Virk. You're a friend of the show, and I love chatting tennis with you. We'll have to do this again. Best of luck on everything. Can't wait to pick up your Cinephile book in August when it releases. But as always, thanks for coming on the show.
This was awesome, Mitch. I appreciate it. I will go check out that Nadal book. I got to see what Chris Clary's divvied up this time. We'll check it out.
A lot of stuff in there, but that was a blast here with Adnan Virk on the Inside In Tennis podcast, available on all your podcast platforms. So just go to Apple, Spotify, iHeart, wherever you get your shows. Click that download button and subscribe. And when you subscribe, you get every episode automatically downloaded to the show. Download to your device. It's that simple. And subscribe to the YouTube channel at Mitch Michals for full video episodes of all these podcasts, as well as some exclusive clips there. So for Adnan Virk, I'm Mitch Michals. This was the Inside In Tennis podcast. Thank you for listening. We'll talk to you soon. Enjoy the tennis and have fun at Wimbledon.